Hey guys, Raymond here from the Beginner Photography Podcast. Today is a great episode. We talk about how to book shoots after you've moved to a new state. Let's get into it. Alright guys, I really hope that you heard yesterday's episode. I talk a little bit about why we've been on a bit of a hiatus and where Callum is. So if you didn't hear yesterday's episode, Callum is going on a 6-month road trip across America. How cool is that? How many people wish that they could say that? I know I do. That would be freaking awesome. So we're going to wish him the best of luck. But for the time being, I'm taking over. This is all mine. I'm the captain of the ship. I'm running this thing. I'm going to do my best not to run it into the ground, if you know what I mean. So you guys have got to help me out, okay? I want you guys to do one thing for me. If you guys are listening to this podcast, head over to our Instagram page right now. Instagram handle is Beginner Photo Podcast, all one word, or you could just search for the hashtag MyBPP, and you'll probably find us in the latest photo. You'll see today's episode banner right there with Rebecca Wang, and just let me know that you listened to the podcast and how much you enjoyed it. Let Rebecca know how much you enjoyed the podcast as well, and just give us a big old thumbs up. I mean, anything that you could do that's really going to make us know that this is worth it for you, and we appreciate you. So, I'm not even going to get into what I've been up to for the past 3 weeks because honestly, it's a lot, a lot of engagement sessions, a few weddings if you're watching on YouTube. And even the last episode, I got a little 360-degree camera that I've been playing around with and testing out. I know if Callum's listening to this right now, he's just got to be cringing. But I've been playing with some of the footage, and I'm really excited to see how I can utilize this in my business and how I can deliver something really meaningful to brides. So it's been a really fun adventure. Today we have Rebecca Wang, who is a photographer in Wyoming who just moved 2 months ago from California. And yet, despite having just moved to Wyoming, she's already booking shoots. How is she doing it? Today we talk about it, and we find out a little bit about her method to how she's booking these shoots. So without any further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get into this right now because this is a really good episode. Here is Rebecca Wang.
People start off with is like, I am not a Pinterest photographer. So I've gotten to the point now where people come to me and they just say, do your thing. Like wherever you think would be good and whatever colors you think would work, or for outfits, like whatever you think, just let us know. When I first started out, it wasn't like that. I feel like people would come to me with all these Pinterest ideas.
Yes.
And I finally had to get to the point where I was like, I am not a Pinterest photographer. I'm sorry. Like this is my style. And I feel like it's really comfortable from the beginning. So I voice message back and forth, and I give them ideas, and I just tell them like, hey, if you have any questions or you need anything, just message me, call me, whatever, it's fine. And then usually I try to meet with people beforehand just so they're a little bit more comfortable with me.
Especially
before my shoot.
Yeah.
Yes. But then there's times where you just don't have the opportunity to do that. I've done a lot of clients where I've never met before either. Mm-hmm. So I allow myself a 15-minute warm-up period for every session I do. So there's about 15 minutes of every session where I just tell people, like, it's kind of just asking questions. I kind of do some snap test shots, little random shots of, like, kids or the couples or whatever's going on in the scene. And it's just more like me talking for 15 minutes just so they loosen up a little bit, where it's not like, okay, let's go, smile. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like I'm watching the clock. We got 30 minutes here. Here we go.
Let's go. And I definitely don't do sessions. I do not charge by time at all. Mm-hmm. I allow my sessions to they end when they end, and I always get sessions early also. So I allow myself flex time. So my sessions are usually like 2.5 to 3 hours.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Yeah. So we meet early. I mean, sometimes it'll be an hour and a half if they're going really quick. With kids, I usually try to be a lot faster because kids are kind of over it in like 10 minutes, you know?
Yes.
So, but for the most part, I like my sessions to be really leisurely, more of like an experience, because I think when people start feeling rushed, you kind of, it causes so much tension. So
Sure, of course.
that was like a million things to that one question, but those are all the things I do.
Again, I thought that was a great answer for sure. So you talked a little bit about having everybody together for the family session, showing up early, and then just letting it go for as long as it lasts, and not being a Pinterest photographer. I think that that's something that, as a beginner, like you mentioned, is very hard to kind of get over, because as a beginner, and I've mentioned this on the podcast before, really the only place we're going to get inspiration is either Facebook or Pinterest, because when you're first starting off, you don't really know where else to look for ideas for photography. So therefore, if you as a photographer starting off do that, you know that couples and families are going to do the exact same thing. And that's where the trap kind of comes in. However, the problem being is that, the photos on Pinterest are a culmination of hundreds of photographers, hundreds of best one photos.
Right.
And then you're expected to get all of these photos in one session as just one photographer, and it's just not reasonable.
Right.
So why don't you tell me the first time, how it went the first time where you told the couple, like, you know what? This isn't going to work. This is not what I do. How did that go? Can you walk me through exactly what you told them? Because I'm sure that a lot of the listeners are feeling like, how do I get out of this trap?
You know what? I don't remember exactly like the specific moment. I guess I kind of do, but I kind of don't. Like, I just remember getting to the point where I was like, if this is what photographing clients is like, no thanks. It's just not my, and I would get really nervous, really uncomfortable, because I was shooting for them instead of shooting for myself. And as a photographer, I think it's really important for clients to understand. I cannot tell you how many people have come to me and I just say, I don't think I'm the right photographer for you.
That's so important.
It's so important for people to look at artists' work, because I've had so many people come to me like they want cake, oh my gosh, the cake smash session. Everybody has a cake smash session. I am not a cake smash photographer. I cannot do it. I'm not a studio photographer. I don't have that. That's not my passion. So I think it's just I think to get to that point, you have to get comfortable. You have to get your voice as a photographer, if that makes sense. Like,
of course.
I think at first when I started out and people started coming to me, I was like, oh, okay, this is what they want. And, oh, do you like your photos? And, oh, all this stuff. And then I think over time I got to the point where I was like, you know what? This just isn't what makes me happy. And for a while, I actually took a cut in clients, because I kind of had to start establishing like my style and my business geared towards what I wanted to shoot. And I had to turn away a lot of people, which, obviously would have been income. But I think if you're really shooting for you and your heart is really in it, it definitely shines through in your work. And it shines through in your sessions. Like you were asking me before, like, how do you make, people feel, comfortable in your sessions? Like, I'm extremely passionate with my sessions. And I don't know if maybe clients, I've had a lot of clients that actually say, like, I love your passion. Like, your passion's so amazing. It makes you like enjoyable to work with, because we can tell how much you love doing it.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think, and I think that's a really big compliment, and I think, to get off Pinterest, you just have to get off Pinterest. I mean, I don't know, it's one of those things like ripping off the Band-Aid. Like,
yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you got to do it.
You just got to do it, and maybe even take like a sample client, a friend, or take your child and just try playing with like different light and different things and different ideas without going into a shoot with like print offs of Pinterest ideas or saved on your phone of, posing, because clients can feel that. And it also kind of, I feel like, gives a sense of you're not 100%, not that you don't know what you're doing, but you're not quite there in your comfort with your photography. I don't know if that, like, if my wording is making sense. But
no. I think it makes sense to me, but I think it's because I'm in the same boat as you. I know my style of photography, and I know what I used to shoot and how it didn't make me happy. Because, like you, I went to a wedding once and thought, like, oh, I got to get the perfect Pinterest shot. I know exactly what I want to get. And I got that shot. And the problem is that I nailed it. Like, it was so good. And I thought, this is it. I got it. I'm going to show it to everybody on Facebook. It got 1 million likes. And then, not literally 1 million likes, but I mean, it got more likes than any of my previous photos.
Right.
But then the problem is that suddenly people started contacting me like, hey, we want you to shoot our wedding because we saw that one photo that you did. And deep inside it was like, awesome, new client. Oh, but I hated that photo. I hated taking that photo. So,
and then you start attracting those clients. So like if you start doing cake smash sessions, people are going to contact you. You have to just say, you know what? That's just not what I want to do. And it might take a little bit to kind of start over and go in that direction. I know a lot of people that used to do clients that were like, you know what? My passion is in-home documentary. And they completely stopped doing other client sessions.
Yes.
But once you find your voice and that's what you start specializing in, people will start coming to you for that. And that's a really great place to be as a photographer, because every time you go on a shoot, you're going to shoot something that you love because you're attracting those people, you know?
Absolutely. So, what do you think about, like, say you first started off, right? We're going to go back to the beginning. You're first starting off, and you're getting all these like Pinteresty clients, right? And you're in this rut. You're thinking, oh, man, I really don't like the photos that I'm taking. How do I get away from this, right? But you've already booked, say, 10 or 15 more sessions, right? How do you get away from that? Do you think that it's smarter just to go ahead and shoot those other ones all Pinteresty, like you knew that they were going to like, and just not show them on your website so that people stop asking you for those photos? Or telling them, hey, look, I'm not going to shoot this all Pinteresty. I'm going to do it however I want to, and then I'm going to put these images on my website.
So when I made the transition, because there is a transition when you're changing, when you're basically going from like, I don't know, doing a newborn photography to going to like wedding photography. You have to kind of wean your way out of that. So what I would do is, like, let's say I had 10 sessions booked that I had already booked out. And in that time, I was like, you know what? Because I'm really impulsive. I'm like, that's it. I don't want to do it anymore. So what I would do is I would mix up my sessions. I would say, hey, so I actually really like to do more like natural, candid documentary, but I also appreciate that you're coming to me for like these photos. Would you be okay with like a mixture of both? So what I would do is I would do those photos, and then I would also incorporate like the documentary, and I would only post the documentary ones on my like social media.
Nice. Okay. So
and then I would get to the point where after those sessions were done, when people would contact me, I always tell people, even to this day, I'm like, just so you know, I always say, I just want to give you an idea of kind of how my style is, because my style is probably a lot more different than most photographers that you have been to. You know, I'm not a traditional photographer. I'm not a posy, like, look at me and smile. It's really awkward for me. I don't know how to pose people. Like, I feel like I should, but I just don't. It's just, I do, but I don't. It's not my thing. You know?
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's just kind of slowly making that transition, maybe incorporating your style into what they want. And then when you're done with those sessions, it's like, hey, these are the photos I take. And if you're looking for something maybe a little bit more traditional, I would always have like a list of references. Like, these are some really amazing photographers that their style, it fits what you're looking for perfectly.
That's awesome.
That's kind of how I transitioned into like then to like what I'm doing now.
That's awesome. I thought I think that was a perfect answer. Honestly, I think that's the best way to do it, is that if you're known for something and that's why people are hiring you, you still do it. But then you also get whatever is going to make you happy. You show off whatever makes you happy, and then you're slowly going to start attracting those clients that are going to just look for something that you enjoy to do. So, A+ answer. I love it. So then let's kind of move a little bit here. Why don't you kind of talk about the beginning of photography and tell us a little bit about how long you've been doing it, and I guess how you learned photography.
So I think, like most people, I started photography because I had kids, and I'm like, oh, hey, I should take photos of you. Since you're moving around and doing cute things, maybe I should take photos of you. My grandpa was a photographer, and my sister is an amazing photographer, actually, and kind of runs in the family. My uncle does photography as well, and so my mom ended up buying me those Rebel kits that you can get.
Like Costco or something.
Yep. After I had my second, she goes, oh, I'm going to buy you a camera. Okay. I'm like, okay. So I kind of started playing around with it, and oh my gosh, like, now I look back now and I'm like, oh, Those are awful. And what's funny is at the time people are like, oh my gosh, those, like, that's the best photo ever.
Of
I love
course.
that photo. Those. And then you look back and you're like, why? Like, that's not, no, that's horrible. I could take a better photo with my iPhone. Anyway, but, so yeah, I just kind of randomly just started out, like just started taking photos to take photos on auto, like most people do, but I had a big fancy camera, whatever. And, I like after about 6 months, I really started kind of getting into it a little bit more. And I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then I kind of started reading about like manual mode. I'm like, manual mode? What's that? What's up? What's ISO? What is your aperture? I don't understand. What are all these things? And then I read, like I'm self-taught. So I read all the time. I would watch YouTube videos and then I would take that information, I'd go out and I would practice.
Real quick, did you have any favorite YouTube resources, or was it just you search for ISO?
Just search for random things. Like, awesome. And I would just read, like, what's ISO? Like, I had the hardest time. Like, it would take me 15, 20 minutes just to adjust my light, just to get good light. When you're first starting, you're playing with your numbers, because I shoot everything in manual now. And I just did that. Every day I took my camera everywhere with me, and then I, started off in safe light and, got comfortable with that. And then I would start reading more, and then I would be like, oh, my photos are, white balance. What's white balance? Well, it's crazy. That makes a huge difference. And then I would start, and like, if I didn't understand something on my camera, I would research it. And then that's what I did. I mean, I did that for probably about, I would say maybe 2 years. And then, I would say after about a year and a half with my camera, I started feeling really comfortable with manual, like to the point where kind of like driving a stick shift, you just kind of know, it's just like it's habitual, you just like, oh, okay, here we go. And like, so yes. I would say after about a year and a half, I started getting really comfortable with it. And then I started kind of playing with a little bit more diverse light, like more shadows and more like sun flares. And I don't know, now I just kind of keep challenging myself and just keep trying new things. So it's really funny. I don't know, as a photographer, I don't know about you. I don't feel like I have a style. People say I have a style, but I don't ever edit the same. I don't ever shoot in the same light. It's really weird. It's very weird. I know. I mean, I do kind of edit the same. I guess there's things like color. I love color. I love vibrancy, for sure.
And that's very apparent on your website. That's good that that's one of your favorites.
Yes, I love color. But, like, this year, my goal is to play around with black and white more, because I am not black and white photography is an art in itself. There's so much to know about. People think you just, convert to black and white, but that's so not the case. There's so much that goes into it. And I really want to take the time this fall to study more about, like, black and white photography, or play. I hate artificial light. I hate it. And I love natural light. We were in California for 5 years, so like
perfect natural light, mostly sunsets.
Natural. Mm-hmm. And I took a workshop for my friend Karen. She's an amazing photographer, but she's amazing with artificial light. Like,
why don't you give her a shout out? Who is it? Karen who?
Karen. I never say her last name right. Ostiak. I never say it right. Never.
I'll get it from the email, and I'll link it to the show notes.
Yep, love it. But anyway, she's amazing. I took a workshop from her, which was super awesome. And I was actually just talking to her a couple days ago, and I was telling her that this winter I really want to play around, since I'm going to be in snow and stuck inside half of my life, that I might as well start playing around with artificial light more. So, yeah, I think it's just, as soon as I get comfortable with something, I'm like, okay, I got to change. I got to change something. I don't like being comfortable. I feel like when you get comfortable, it's kind of, there's no growth, you know? So, yeah, that's just kind of my slow progress. So everything has been self-taught for me. I've just been, I just research and read and watch. YouTube videos are great for teaching you just about anything.
Absolutely. So you mentioned there, obviously, that you went to Karen's workshop. Are there any other workshops that you've been to, or that you've been interested in going to?
You know what? It's funny, I'm not really a workshop person, which is funny. I don't know why. I just never really got into it. But
there's a lot of people who aren't, honestly. I mean, there's a lot of photographers who just say, nope, just YouTube, just books. Yes. But of course, workshops are huge now. So it's one of those things that you got to ask. And because I think that workshops are kind of show off the photographer that you aren't. because if I were to go to a workshop, I'm not going to go to a workshop to where, for a photographer who I look at their photos and think, man, their photos look a lot like mine. I'm going to go to a workshop for a photographer who's like, what is that? Like, I would never, I might go to like a fashion workshop or even like a landscape workshop because you can.
Something that you're going to really learn, like a wealth of information. And that's the thing. So with Karen, hers is really on like artificial light and like really just different diversified light. And I don't know, like it was a really great workshop and I loved it. And, I took it, because she's a friend and I'm like, I love her, her artificial light photos. Yes. And I was like, I could really learn something from her. And I did. I really learned a lot in her workshop. I'm like, I kind of hesitant to take anymore because I feel like it was so good that I'm like, I don't know. And then
only one way to find out.
I know. And then there's another one that I would love to take. Summer Kate's. She has a workshop out. And I don't know if it's running right now, but I've been wanting to take it for quite some time. It's called Skin Deep, and it's just really working on like skin tones, which I feel like I'm really pretty good with skin tones, but sometimes you can be in a situation with light where it's like,
especially natural light.
Yep, where that skin it looks orange. I mean, sometimes I'm okay with like orange looking skin, or like my younger son has really deep like orange pigmentation in his skin, and it's really impossible to get orange out of his skin where he doesn't look washed out.
Sure.
But her Skin Deep one I think looks really good, and I just bought a workbook actually from Beyond the Wanderlust.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so I actually did a workshop with them, a beginner's workshop, which is funny that I'm talking to you about beginner stuff, but I did. It's called In the Course of a Day, and I just took I ordered a workbook from, her name is Shelly of My Captured Life, and I just ordered hers about a week and a half ago, and it was really good. I dug into that, and it was like super jam-packed with information. Really great. That'd be a really great book for beginners as well.
Okay, I'll have to link that in the show notes, and I might even reach out to her to try to get her on the podcast. And
yeah, she's amazing. She's one of my favorite photographers. I love her. She's great.
Right on. That was a great shout out. She's gonna love that for sure.
Yeah.
So we're gonna kind of switch gears once again here. You talked a little bit about your first camera was just a Rebel kit, right? You've obviously upgraded since then. So we're gonna talk a little bit about gear. You said that you're a natural light shooter. So what do you shoot with now? What kind of body do you got? What kind of lenses do you use?
So after the Rebel, I ended up getting somebody was selling a 50D for like $300. I was like, oh, that's so awesome, a 50D. I'm going to get that in my 50 millimeter for $50. And I shot with that for like a year. And
that's incredible.
I loved it. Yeah. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, I kind of want to upgrade a little bit. So I really wanted to get a full frame. So I upgraded to the 60. And then last Christmas, my father-in-law bought me a 5D Mark III.
Wow, best father-in-law ever.
Shit. Like, I was like, oh my God, is this a joke? Like, I thought they joked, like, I thought they were screwing with me. They put something inside the box, and I was like, this is messed up. If this isn't a camera, someone's going to die right now. Like, it's about to happen in this room. And I opened it, and I was freaking out. Like, I died. I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, it's like the best day of my life. But, yeah, so right now I'm shooting with the Mark III, and I use the 60 as like my backup camera, and then I'm a prime lens girl, like fixed lens. I shoot with a 28 millimeter. That's like the only thing I've shot with.
Like the Canon 28, like 2.8?
No, the 1.8.
The 1.8. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I've only shot with that for the last year. That's it. I haven't shot with anything else. Nothing. And I kind of feel like I'm getting to the point. I was just telling my husband the other day, I'm like, I feel like I should get something different. I don't know. I just feel like, but I love it so much. I can't part with it. I'm like, I can't. So,
I'm going to confess something right here. When I first went to your website and I saw the photos, apart from the color, there was something about your photos that really, stood out. And I couldn't figure out what it was. I didn't know what it was. And I think right there when you mentioned it, that it was the 28 mil, I think that's it. Because everybody either goes for 24, 35, 50, or 85,
the 28.
right?
The 28's always forgotten. It's so sad. I love that thing.
It's just right in between the 24 and the 35 to where it's significantly wider than a 35, but yet it still just has that tiny bit more depth. than the 24
Yep.
does, and it's really interesting. And I think that's what makes your photos just slightly more compelling than what they would be if you would have either shot on just the 24 or the 35.
Yeah.
I think that that's really cool. That is awesome.
Yeah, and I love it, and I've been shooting with it for, I mean, honestly, probably over a little bit of a year. I mean, I shoot with it all the time, and we're super adventurous. We like to go on hikes and go out and explore, and I
Nice and light
love
lens.
yes, and I love incorporating landscape into everything I do. It's funny, when I first started, I was really more I shot with a 50 when I first started. And I love 50. 50 is great. I feel like it's a very true to eye lens kind of,
Yeah.
like perspective. And I had a lot more detail shots. I was just going through some old photos actually just a couple days ago, and I was like, gosh, I had a lot more detail photos a couple years ago than I did now. Now everything is like so much of the big picture, And I kind of want to play around with the 50 again a little bit, just to kind of maybe change it up. But
Oh, so you don't
every
even
time,
want to go wider? Get something like a 16 to 35.
you know what? I don't want to go wider at all. I feel like the 28 is perfect. You don't get too much in to where it takes away from your subject, but you get just enough in to where you get the surrounding like elements,
Yes.
It's perfect. I love the 28. It's the best lens. I just can't part with it. I don't know what to do. Like everything, weddings, everything I shoot with is the 28. I just did a wedding down in Santa Monica area back in May. Was it May? April? May? I don't remember. And right before we moved. And I brought my 60 with my 50 millimeter. And I have an 85 millimeter too, which I honestly never use. I should probably get rid of it because it's just sitting in my camera bag collecting dust. I never use it. Never. So I brought my 50 millimeter hooked to my 6D. And then I had my Mark III with my 28. I shot the whole thing with my 28. I didn't touch the 6D once.
That's awesome.
And then I thought, well, shoot, should I get like as a wedding photographer, do you use a zoom lens, I'm assuming, right? Do you
Nope,
use
nope.
like,
I'm all primes. I'm just 35, 85.
you do, okay, you do the 80, yeah, because I'm always like, man, I don't want to get in people's space during a wedding because you kind of want to be incognito a little bit. And
Yes.
I feel like I'm running around. Do you run around everywhere like a crazy person? With
You have to
with
as a
fixed
wedding
lens?
photographer.
Yeah, you do. I mean, sometimes I'm like, God, I hope I'm not. I try to be really like stealth mode, but sometimes I feel like I'm so spastic when I'm running around that I don't know. Everyone says I'm like, no, we didn't even notice you, and I'm like, really? Okay, but it's funny because I feel like it's very rare. I feel like a lot of wedding photographers don't shoot with just fixed lenses. Would you say, being a wedding photographer?
I don't know. I think that slowly, since the Sigma Art lenses came out, it's slowly moving in the direction that a lot of people are moving to primes, because primes before were just so expensive. As you know, with Canon, your only
Yep.
option was L glass or just cheap Chinese knockoffs, and nobody wanted the cheap
Right.
Chinese knockoffs, but nobody could afford $2,200 85 1.2. So people were just sticking with their 24 to 70 zoom lenses because it was versatile. It costed the
Right.
same as the 85 1.2, and now they had a wide angle all the way up to telephoto. But now with all the Sigma Art lenses, it's really creating
Okay.
competition for Canon at a much cheaper price point. That people are now, hey, I have the 24 to 70, but maybe I'll try that 35 1.4, and then holy
Yeah.
cow, I love this. Now I'm gonna get the 50 1.4. Holy cow! Like, what have I been doing with zooms all my whole life?
Yeah.
So I think
And
that it's slowly starting to become a bigger divide.
Okay, yeah, because it's funny. Everybody I know shoots the 35 right now. That is like the hot tamale of lenses. It's the
Sure.
35, and I thought about maybe getting the 35. I thought about it, but like my friend Karen I was mentioning earlier, I was like, there's not. I mean, is there that significant of a difference to spend the money between a 28 and a 35? I feel like if I'm gonna spend the money on a lens, it should be like, I don't know, something crazy. Like,
But if it doesn't fit your workflow, then why do it?
I know. But you know how you kind of start getting like, I don't know. I just don't like getting comfortable. I feel like when I start getting, I get antsy. I'm like, I gotta change it up. Gotta do something different. I don't know. It's really weird.
That's just the mark of an artist right there. That's all that is.
Yeah.
That's all that is. So, all right, Rebecca, I really want to be mindful of your time, so we're going to slowly wrap this up, but why don't, for anybody listening, she just gave me the I could talk forever hand signal.
Good.
So why don't you go ahead and tell our listeners where they can find you and your beautiful work online?
Okay, so my website is www.rebeccawangphotography.com, and then pretty much the same. Rebecca Wang Photography on Facebook and Instagram. I'm slowly trying to get my Instagram going. I was out of the Instagram game for a really long time, so I've been trying to get a little bit better over there. But
You know what's really going to speed it up? Is Instagram stories. If you have any sort of following whatsoever, using Instagram stories will really boost those followers up real quick.
Oh, okay.
People love them. I don't know.
My sister was talking about, she goes, have you heard of Instagram stories? I'm like, oh, no. I'm like, I'm lucky if I didn't post a photo on Instagram. I mean, let's get real.
Well, Instagram stories, if you haven't heard too much about it, or if our listeners haven't heard too much about it, it's essentially a Snapchat clone, right? But the reason why people are using Instagram stories over Snapchat is that in Instagram you can discover people by using hashtags, and then guess what? You like their feed. Oh, and they have Snapchat stories. I'm going to watch their short form videos like Snapchat. Whereas with Snapchat, you can't discover people. You have to enter in their username manually, and then you have a much smaller core group of an audience. So Instagram Stories just automatically has a larger audience, and therefore you have more attention on your work. So if you wanted to use that to start boosting your Instagram, I would highly suggest it. It's a great way to do so.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out because my sister was talking about it too. So,
does she use it? Why don't you give her a shout out real quick?
Yeah, she does. It's London Bus Red is her Instagram page, and she's an amazing photographer. Go check her out. Go check her out.
All right. Well, Rebecca, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And then we're gonna wrap this up. If you had to go back in time when you first opened up that Canon Rebel kit, and you could just pause time right there and tap younger Rebecca on the shoulder and be like, hey, Rebecca, here's one piece of advice that I would give you. What would that be?
Ooh, I feel like this is advice a lot of people give, but it's so true. When you're starting out, especially when you're starting out, I think it's great to be supportive of other artists, but it's very easy to get sucked into people's styles. And I think as great as it is to be supportive of other artists, it's really good to kind of take a break from social media and focus on your work. And when you're don't compare where you're at, because all those amazing artists that you see, they started where you started. I mean, nobody gets great overnight. Nobody takes an amazing photo in one day. So just keep practicing and don't compare to other people and just keep doing it. And if you put the time in, just like with anything, it'll pay off in the long run.
That was motivational. That was perfect.
Yes.
That perfectly fit our audience. Rebecca, I think everybody's going to resonate with that so much.
Awesome.
Rebecca, I want to thank you for coming on, sharing as much as you did. Your life experiences, that bit of motivation right there was great. And I want to thank you. I know that we're going to follow you, and I can't wait to watch your growth, especially on Instagram. I'm going to go follow you right after this podcast right here. And once again, thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, guys, I hope that you enjoyed that episode half as much as I did. I really found a lot of value in that episode. Just the way that Rebecca's whole outlook on photography and just photographing things is so cool. I mean, she really has fun with it. From the way that she says that she just dresses down, from sweatpants to a messy bun to, feel how you do about that. She even says that it kind of feels kind of ratchet, but her clients keep giving her referrals. Something is working, right? It's not the fact that she wears sweatpants that gets her referrals. Well, maybe it is. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing. It's pretty unique. I'd love to wear just sweatpants to a wedding and some sort of old Pink Floyd shirt, but I don't think that that's going to happen. But it's her personality that she brings to the table. She doesn't hold back who she is. She's truly herself, and that is what her clients like. That is awesome. That is so cool. I mean, just be who you are, and you will find people who love you for you. And that's it. Guys, head on over to the show notes, beginnerphotographypodcast.com/034 to let me know what you thought of this episode. Did you like this episode? What did you think of Rebecca? Why don't you just let her know? Just give her a big shout out for coming on the show. Give her a big thank you for everything that she shared. What is it that you're going to implement into your business? Are you going to start wearing sweatpants to engagement sessions? I doubt it, but if you are, I'd love to know, and I'd love to get a behind-the-scenes photo to share on Instagram. If you guys have any questions this week, feel free to reach out to Rebecca. Feel free to reach out to me at Instagram. That is the Beginner Photo Podcast. Or if you want to reach out to me on Snapchat as well, I'm always on Snapchat. My username is rhatfieldphoto. I'd love for you to come by, say hi, like the rest of the podcast listeners have so far. It's been fun interacting with all of you, getting kind of a behind-the-scenes look in your life, and knowing who's listening to the podcast. It's been a ton of fun. I would love for you to come and join us. Real quick, if you're following us on Instagram, we started a new thing that I talked a little bit about yesterday, which is our daily words of wisdom. Right? We just share a little piece from a calendar, the like word of the day calendars. What are these things called? I don't even know. But it's like each day you rip off a page of this calendar, and there's some sort of old adage or phrase or just a little piece of wisdom, and I go over it every single day and talk about how it applies to not only you in life, but your photography, how it applies to my life and my photography, and just in hopes that I can share something that you are going to get some sort of value of, that you're going to be able to take maybe from my life experience, and just implement into your business or just your photography in general. And I think that they're fun. That's why I'm doing them. Let me know if you guys like them. So far, they've been getting quite a few views, and I can tell that people are enjoying them. I hope that you do too. So let me know. Again, Instagram, Beginner Photo Podcast. Check out our stories. Once again, until next week, guys, get out there, keep shooting, have fun.